Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, also known as the Exalted Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Daphna. I'm so glad that you're here and so stoked for today's episode. This is a different format than usual, and you'll see a lot of things are going to be changing around here. But I would love to welcome our very, very, very special guest, Vika Bradford, who is someone so near and dear to my heart. She is someone I have known, I've had the honor of knowing and working with and sharing with for years. A fellow astrologer. Vika is actually a karmic astrologist and a real master at just explaining karma and you know how that shows up in our charts, and just sharing the most beautiful information with her people. And it's been so fulfilling and just really like deeply beautiful for me to be part of your journey of, you know, becoming the astrologist that you are, and seeing how you have like so bravely stepped into this, you know, this unique way of sharing. And I was just thinking about that before. And if you're not yet familiar with Vika, please check out her work, check out her page. And also have to throw in that Vika is also a singer, but not just any singer, a female vocal trance singer, which to me has so many layers of importance, because if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm obsessed with female vocal trance specifically, and it's like activating to my soul and to this day, you know. And I recently like listened to your music and was just like, oh my god, like this is amazing. So you can also check out her music as well. But Vika, welcome. Thank you for being here. And we're going to talk about the North Node. This is a sister episode. So the other one, kind of like the prequel, I guess you could call it. The part one of this is over on Vika's podcast, the It's Karmic podcast. So you can catch that, and you're going to want to, because we just did a whole deep dive around our South Node and, you know, how each of us have learned and grown from that and what it's given us. And the North Node and the South Node, they go together. You really can't have one without the other. So please check that out, and welcome, Vika.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Me too. Oh my gosh. It's like there's so much. So
much.
So we're just going to kind of pick up where we left off. If you haven't listened to that episode, maybe like pause this one, listen to that, or just have the intention. But you know, I think it'll really work nicely together. But you know, let's just dive right in. Yeah. North Node is so vitally important. We mentioned in that episode how, you know, we both definitely feel that the whole point of our everything is for us to each, you know, really embody our North Node. Everything in the chart is there to kind of uplift and support the embodiment of our North Node. And I really, to me, like my North Node energy is like the great gift. Like it's like, if I didn't know about this, and if I didn't like have this tool, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like horribly lost.
I know what you mean.
Right. So Vika, tell us a little bit about your North Node, and maybe just starting off with like just an explanation of the placement and how you have been leaning into it ever since learning about it.
Yeah. Okay. So I love this because the North Node, I like to describe to many people as like our shining star or our North Star, however you like to look at that energy. But like, it's like, that's the guiding force. So you look up in the sky and you're like the wandering in the desert soul. Like that's your North Star. How are you going to get home, or like to where you're headed? You follow that North Star. Right. And so for me, my North Node being in Aquarius, I literally just got this pendant I'm wearing, and it's the tarot card of the star. And so when I moved back here, and we'll get into me moving to my North Node line, you moving to your North Node line. But when I moved back to where I am right now, I kept pulling the star card over and over and over. And I was like, oh my God, this card is Aquarius. And it's all about my North Node and my work here. And this this North Star energy for me is all about the star right now. So if you guys know tarot at all, it's not like my mastery at all, but I do pull cards every day, and I've been tapping deeper into them, and that the star is like my guide force. So thinking of that as like the energetic explanation of my North Node in Aquarius in the 5th house, really it does speak to like my need to progress the world, but like through self. It's like I'm progressing myself in the world. It's very interesting. And when I first discovered it back in, and you guys will learn this on the sister episode of like how I discovered my South Node, which was the arrow to my North Node. I remember reading about my North Node in Aquarius and just being like, shit, because I'd always had this inkling in me that I was a healer, that I was meant to help the collective, that I was meant to do something very big. And it was meant to shift and change the world. I've always been rebellious. I've always been the outsider. I'm actually like tapping into, as we're filming this, we have the new moon Aquarius coming this weekend, and it's on my North Node and my IC. And I was just tapping into the energy of the outlier, and how it's like very much this Aquarian frequency of being the one like people don't understand, and doing things that are ahead of your time. Like it's anybody who's got big Aquarius energy is light years ahead of their time, which is super uncomfortable. Okay. It's like, these are the artists that die and then their paintings are remembered for all of time. These are, the people that are deemed crazy, like Steve Jobs, for instance, was called crazy for his visions, but look what he left the world with. And Aquarius is that, I just got chills, confirmation. So Aquarius is that frequency. And when I was looking at that, I was like, shit, I've been in like my Leo so hard, in my South Node so hard, that I've been disconnected from this, my shining star, like my North Star. And it's interesting with mine too, because Aquarius is like an energy that kind of freaks me out a little bit. Because yes, I have all these rebellious qualities to me, and I am definitely here to break the freaking matrix, but there is this low octave of Aquarius, which is like the AI and the technology and the world becoming a dystopian like thing that freaks me right out. Okay. So my half of my North Node energy is like, and the other half is like, but like, what if we rebelled and made the world this way instead? It's like new earth versus the new world, and how different those two are. So learning that for me really helps me lean into the fact that I am a healer, and that I am meant to make the world a different place. I'm supposed to do everything differently, like everything, because it is me, 5th house. It's my self-expression. It's my creative force. It's like, even right now, for the first time in my life, I've been thinking about having a child. Never felt that before. Okay. That's my 5th house, guys. And the Aquarian in me is like, I'm going to prove to the world that even birth can be completely different than we've been programmed to believe it is. Like, I've been coming with all these energetic downloads where it's like, we're going to do things different. We're going to break the system. Everything I do, even astrology a little bit, like I'm kind of breaking systems. Okay. Right. So that has been my big like guidepost, is like, am I breaking the system? And if I'm not, like, check in.
Love that. And well, there's so much, but you mentioned in the first part of this, on the other episode, just how you do these check-ins. So again, make sure to listen, because we want to be checking in on the South Node, and it kind of complements, but I love that. I love that you're checking in, and it's like, as long as I'm fucking the system, I'm good.
then everything's all right. Right. But then I also have to watch, because I have the swap of my South Node in the 11th. I'm like, am I fucking the system just to be a dick right now?
Right. Or right. I feel like a good way to like sort of like practice for you specifically, or anybody who has either Libra or Aries rising, right, is to make sure that it's, I mean, with your specific placement, like, is it kind of coming for, is it about me or is it
Mhm.
about the collective? In your case, it's leaning more into that collective and like kind of getting out of your own way type of energy.
100%.
So amazing. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to bring just to kind of extract from what you said, which I think is so important for everybody, is that your North Node often feels weird,
Yeah.
scary, very foreign, and almost like total, like a foreign language.
Especially if it's not conjunct some like very, very deeply ingrained signs. Like for me, mine is conjunct my IC. So it is a natural frequency for me, but it also comes up, in karmic astrology, it comes up with like a lot of my wounded root systems, a lot of my past incarnations of pain points, right? So yes, it's natural for me in one sense, but then it also comes with a whole bunch of baggage in another sense that can create fear. And if your, North Node's just chilling alone and it's not like heavily aspected, or it's not conjunct something, or you don't have a lot of energy in that house, like in that sign, you're typically going to be like, what are you?
Yes.
What
Yes.
are you?
Yeah. And that just makes this whole journey so much more interesting and so much more like, it's like, oh, sure, lean into your North Node, but like when the South Node feels that comfortable, that familiar, and that easy, and then you throw in like the foreignness of the North Node, depending on where like you said, what the placement is, it makes for an interesting life, right? And that's what we're here for. But so thank you for bringing that. So like, how do you, what has been helpful in leaning into that North Node? And how have you been able to kind of get more comfortable in it? Like, how have you stretched out of that comfort zone?
Yeah. I think one of my main things is really, I like to work with the planets very deeply. Like I believe they're guides. I believe they're like honestly like spirit guides almost. So I think of them as frequencies or spirit guides. And so for me, it's actually been leaning into Uranus and Saturn. Both are very key players in my chart, and getting to know them.
Their
So
vibe, their
yeah,
way.
their vibe, what they do in my life, how they impact me, how they influence me. Right now, I'm in a Uranus Pluto opposition, and I've got some other things going on with Saturn and Uranus as well. And just like how they influence my life, how they activate me, and
Mhm.
understanding them as frequencies is like, okay, if I know there's a chaotic nature
Awesome.
to my frequency, Uranus, if I know I'm supposed to awaken, liberate, change, do these very, very like intense, rapid awakenings with people, like it's like that's the break the matrix energy. I'm like, I know it, that's part of my signature. I have to get to know that energy in my life and how that shows up. And then I start to reflect back on, okay, I've always been kind of breaking the mold. I've always been kind of like fucking shit up, right?
It's just like just expressing in a little bit of a different way, right? Because Vika, just for everybody, just to be like super clear, like for Vika, she has the same energies basically flipped, right? Whereas for me, for example, mine are not. It's my North Node is the opposite, right? And the houses are opposite. For you too, but they're not of the same energies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mine
it's
repeat, yours don't.
right, right. So it's really interesting when you have something like this, like Vika's chart, because it's more about learning to just, I think, channel those energies just a little slightly differently. It's subtle,
Yeah, it is.
right?
It is,
That
right?
goes along with your whole thing, very subtle. Whereas like with me, it's like, okay, no, I'm blatantly here to do the complete opposite energy. and there's no overlap. So I just wanted to clarify
Oh,
that.
yeah, no, and I love that because like mine do play into each other, right? Like I can't I can't be
And it's
completely
right,
opposite. I
right.
can't. No. It's like
45.
an infinity symbol, right?
Yeah,
Like they're constantly going into each other. Like, are you breaking the system for external validation, or are you linking
yeah,
into your heart for collective validation? Like, which one are
yeah.
you on today?
Yes,
So whereas yours is like, we're doing the opposite and we're doing them in houses that have nothing to do with
right,
the opposite of them. So those are opposite.
right.
And it's
It's a
like,
very clear cut
yes,
difference.
there's
So
no link between them.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless you have, like I said, Aries as your ascendant or Libra as your ascendant,
Yeah.
you will have a little bit of a clearer cut kind of difference in those energies. So just wanted to clarify that for
Yeah.
people.
No, I love that. I love that.
And it's interesting too, like you mentioned, also having, I believe you said your North Node on your IC, right? Your Imam Cheli. So what was it you that we channeled to really like the quantum belonging?
Yeah. So, okay. So in Placidus, it is in my fourth house,
Yeah.
which still resonates very deeply with me. It makes sense with my karmic work. It makes sense with the fact that I work with past lives and like all
Yeah.
that stuff. And like part of my work is including the like breaking generational curses and like family lineage stuff that you're just like, I'm not in for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there is this quantum belonging that you brought through like years ago, I think in Beyond the Stars. I think that was what it was called. And then if we bring in like the fifth house is like, it's like quantum creative expression. I don't even know, but leaning into that more this year, I'm like, okay, I've been feeling so many people are like, get back to music. Like, why aren't you singing? I have so many instruments, like a handmade drum from this indigenous couple back home in BC. I have a ukulele. I'm like looking around at all my instruments that just sit there because I'm not in my North Node when I'm not creative. I've been like thinking about painting again lately. Children, like all these things,
And,
right?
it's fascinating too, because I feel like, you mentioned like I'm not in my North Node, but life will like kind of will not just let you not be in it. It'll
True.
start to come louder and louder from people, from signs, from messages, and it's like that feeling of like, in Star Wars when they're like in the garbage dump and they're getting squeezed closer and closer. It's like you're gonna start to feel the squeeze. And it's not supposed to be bad, right? Like it's not supposed to be like you have to do this. It's actually once you like surrender to it, right? And it does to me feel a lot of times like a surrender because it's Taurus for me, but like I think in general, like it's like if we can surrender to our North Node, there's so much universal support that comes with it and this like ease that I think sometimes we're just like not used to, and we're just because we're so programmed in our society for things to be difficult,
Oh
um,
yeah.
and for life to just be like kind of hard, right? Hard, and we're all working through that, but like overall I think that the North Node part of the resistance is like we just have been taught that like life is supposed to be like challenging, especially around like money and work and like just to kind of fall in line. And we've seen just so much suffering, right, that we kind of expect that. And so I think that the more of this work that we do, it's like so healing across the board, no matter what your North Node is. It's just that act, it's a revolutionary act, right, to lean into your North Node because that's what you're here for.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I do love the idea that like life isn't going to make it necessarily easy, but then it's easy when you finally link in and surrender. And the idea that this came through really deep this summer when my husband and I separated for about half of 2022, maybe more than half, probably like 3/4. And I realized afterwards when I was like waking up to the fact that like it wasn't over, I was like, the fact that we got so peaceful freaked me out And I thought, I guess it's the boredom. I thought I confused boredom for peace. And like what you're saying about like, we fall into these ideas that life should be hard. So in relationships in our North Nodes, like we're like, oh, like it has to be a hustle, or it has to be
Right.
intense, or like whatever it is, it has to be a frequency of difficulty, instead of like boredom isn't peace. Like peace is peace can
Right.
feel like boredom when you're so attuned to trauma or to hardship, right? So when we get into our North Node and things start flowing, we're like, oh my God, I need to self-sabotage.
Right. Right. Or like what, because that goes against the whole, like, because we're really programmed to be like consumers, and consumerism relies on like a feeling of like inner not enoughness and
Yeah.
boredom, because I have to
Oh, for
get that
sure.
thing. So like for me, like a huge shift now for me that only could have happened by this whole sequence of events of like surrendering to my North Node and moving and doing all these things. Now I'm really at this point where like I'm like I am actually leaning into like the most simple life possible. I mean, there's people out there who are like rocking that and leading this whole movement, but like I do feel like that's the direction I'm headed in, where like I'm literally going to like knit like just spend hours like knitting and like finding the answers of life like in that, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
where I just feel this like easing up that like I was so not open to, and like it's been a process. Um and just like the simplicity, the presence, like of course that does work really well with my Taurus North Node, but like I think overall, like we're just talking about this general um like collective shift into like really finding like our values and like the things that are true for us. Like maybe that is adventure, maybe that is, something, whatever, but it's I don't think overall it's like an addiction to like overconsumption and creating chaos for ourselves and like just constantly chasing after something outside, right? So I love that that came up because I think it's just a really interesting, general shift that's
Yeah.
happening.
No, and I love that too. And it makes me think just of my own choice in career and vocation as an astrologer, and how all I want to do is study astrology and teach astrology. And like more and more that's just resonating right now, where I'm like, I don't want to be in the coaching industry. I don't want to be in this industry. I literally just want to read and write astrology and teach my students astrology for the rest of my life. I want to be like a little old biddy at conferences being like, hey guys, we're talking about astrology today, like forever. And I also want to live in the wilderness. And like,
Right?
my evolution that I'm seeing is not necessarily the tech revolution of the Aquarius. It's to actually revolt against the
Yeah,
technology and go into the woods, my cabin in the woods, and live in a more community-based way with like a homestead, which is very Taurus, but like it actually is a rebellious act against the society we're in right now to go and do that. So I've seen so many memes that are like rebel or like revolutionary thinking in the 70s was like was one thing, and now revolutionary thinking is to have like a homestead and a family and a couple of kids, and like I'm
oh,
like,
I
this
saw
is
that
so
recently.
true,
Yeah,
right?
that was great. It was like something about like chickens, I don't know. It
Yeah, it
was
was like
along
having
those
chickens and
lines.
cows and like,
Right, like that's like, but I love it. And like thank you for mentioning, because like, of course the collective North Node is in Taurus.
yes,
And I think that the whole shift has been, regardless of your personal North Node, right? It's been about just back to basics, like
to basic.
security, like stability, earth, like
Yeah, literally earth.
connection, like food, like it's like such a revolution. And I love how you brought that, because like for you, your North Node is going to uniquely serve our collective North Node by you, doing your truth in your life, and then mine and everybody else's. So I feel like the North Node is like how each of us individually um can be part of the greater shifts that are happening, and we can attune ourselves to it. And it just kind of happens. Like
It does. It does. I
it's,
feel like as you get older too, it just like
it's,
clicks more in to
yeah,
a line and you're like, I can't ignore this anymore. Like,
right. Right. And collectively, it's like, you cannot deny that like there has been this shift. And like, I'm really
no.
excited to see, come July, what is going to shift when the node,
Oh, I'm
North Node
pumped.
goes into Aries, like how, and how everything that we've been working on is going to be all about that, and then how each of our nodal journeys is going to serve that.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's just,
Okay. I love this so much. So like since we're talking about Taurus, it's coming, it's
yeah.
important, it needs to happen. Let's talk about your North Node and like
Hmm.
your discovery of your mission here.
Gosh. Okay. So I'm sort of between missions right now. Like I
That's
don't,
okay.
I'm very honest and open that I'm definitely in a major, reconstruction and changing of so much in my life, which makes total sense. I'm in my nodal return right now. So if any of you listening are also of the Taurus Scorpio axis, if you're a Taurus North Node like me, our North Node nodal return was July 2022. And I'm still definitely like riding that wave of like, oh my God, like I changed my life. So, I moved to Sedona, and Sedona is actually on my North Node line. So it's just, you can't make this shit up, right? And for me, we spoke a lot about South, obviously, in the other episode, and it's been so cool to anchor into the Taurus for me and the 11th. I definitely, for sure, can be like guilty of that emotional manipulation piece that you brought around the fifth house or the Leo South Node, and doing that to myself a lot, I realize, and just being very kind of not selfish, because I still have, a super strong Pisces signature, but like more so like very sort of narrow-mindedly, like like I don't know how to even put it, but that South Node piece of like the fifth house and the Leo, like it can make you just feel like very hyper focused on like your personal experience of it, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But like, it's just really wild to like lean deeper into like that 11th in the Aquarius and be like, whoa, like that's so healing. Like, it's like this balm to me to like just fucking stop focusing so much on me and like my emotions, and that's so easy for me to do, and get really lost in it. But it feels so good to like show up, to like talk about the greater themes, to like be that Aquarian, to like, just talking, just doing this right now, talking about things that are bigger than ourselves, and like plugging myself into that and like being of service in that way, because my Mercury is actually conjunct my North Node. So writing, and channeling information for the collective with the astrology is like, that is like what I like, that's my jam, and that's like what feels great. But it has to, for me, like it has to feel good. Like it has to be that Taurus, and it has to be kind of like on my terms as well. So the 11th house piece is kind of, it is still a bigger thing that I'm anchoring into, but the Taurus is really huge. Like just that awakening constantly, and that constant kind of reminder to myself, like it's okay for it to be easy. I'm safe. Like all these things that like truly are so radically different than like what I, than what my life like always felt like internally for me. Um, I read once, and this really resonated. It was on like a random website, but it was like, if you're born with your North Node in Taurus, you're off the hook in this life. And like, I was like offended. Like, I was like, like on the one hand, I was like, wow, that's whoa. And the other, I was like, what? Like, how can, like, what? Like, what do you mean? That's not like, no way. Like, I'll never let my guard down. But it's like, that's kind of like this thing in my head all the time. Like, what does that even mean? And like, how much can I like, how good can it get? And like, this is like a major journey. Like, I'm nowhere. Like, sometimes it's, even hard for me to just enjoy, like, or like the most simplest thing, but like just the permission to do so is huge. And money stuff is huge with this north node, like healing my relationship with money, major thing for me. Like, still working on that 100%. But I think the biggest thing is just like, the more I do like beauty, the more I'm like with Venus, like you said before, the more I um just expect life to be good and sweet. That's what I get. And I sometimes, like, I'm like pinching myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, is this okay? But it is. And it's not only okay, it's like, it's very clear that like the universe, right? And my higher self, whatever, the whole thing, like, actually like wants me to have this. So it's this very, very funny kind of game that I'm like, where I'm like, really? you know? Um, and so much has transpired since moving to Sedona around this theme. Relationship wise, work wise, same kind of messages. Like, it's like, nope. Like, if I try to throw in like difficulty, it doesn't fly. And it's like, I'm amazed every time how the more I peel back and like simplify and like get Taurian with it, then the green light, then the flow, and it is wild to me. But that's pretty much, been the experience so far. And it's crazy.
I love it too. I love what you said about like how good can life get. Just for anyone who's listening that has a Taurus North Node, like I feel like everyone's gonna hear that and be like,
Even
damn.
yeah, and like, even I've noticed how much I say it's crazy. And I'm like, but it's not. Like that, I've become very aware of that phrase, where I'll just be having a conversation and I just keep saying it's crazy. That's like the Scorpio wanting to come in and be
like, it
but
can't
it's
be
like,
this good. It can't be this
right,
great.
right. And then that's been like really lately very like very clear, like my awareness around that phrase, especially.
Mm.
um just to bring a little like, conscious languaging in, you'll notice how your brain, for me, my brain wants to sort of sustain a certain status quo. And so, but we can actually lean deeper into our north nodes through our languaging as well, and just being more intentional. Like, I started actually using this affirmation, everything's always working out for me. And I was really doing that for a while and seeing how everything really was always working out for me. And anybody can use that, but it might be really cool to kind of find a couple of phrases or affirmations for your north node that you can start to replace the south node kind of unconscious language, right? So instead of saying it's crazy, or like, something along those lines, which then makes my experience of reality crazy, I could say like, I'm so grateful, it's just so abundant or whatever, it's so good, it's so sweet.
I'm
So
witnessing something.
yeah, like, what
Yeah,
would you
like within myself here. So when you're saying that, like, oh, it's crazy, I'm witnessing something that's been coming up for me for a couple of months, where anybody who's listening, and I'm sure you know this, I am a crazy Virgo. Now there, it came through right there. I am so intense about my food. I eat 100% organic. I will not, my water is extremely purified. I do not put anything on my skin that is not clean. I am an absolute, like, I'm OCD about it. Okay, guys, like purity is key for me. I'm a dick about it to people. Like, I'm like, y'all need to wake up. Like, everybody, can you just wake the hell up? And lately I've noticed my language. So I have been, eating different than other people for years. It started with allergies for me, but I know it was a gift from the universe to get me to this point where I'm eating so clean and I'm so aware of things, because it's my Aquarian job to help wake up the collective around this thing specifically. And what I notice is when I go to people's houses and I won't eat their food because I'm so intense, or if I go to a restaurant, I will not go out to a restaurant unless it's a steakhouse that has like really good quality steak. And I'll apologize for how weird I am. I'll be like, you guys know I'm crazy. You guys know I'm a lunatic. You guys know I'm OCD. You guys know I don't have OCD, guys. I don't associate with that term, but like, you guys know I'm so weird. Oh, my weird world. And what I realized lately is like, I'm not the weird one.
Right.
I'm the one that sees through, like, with the fact that everything's smothered in chemicals, and like, I want to be purified.
Yeah, that's a like healthy way of owning it and being like, I'm aware.
I'm helping the collective move forward. I'm progressing us. I'm actually the future, right? I'm like I said, 1,000 light years ahead, where everyone gets to a point there where they're like, wait a minute, what's on our food? What's in our food? What's in our products? What's in our baby formula? What's in our baby? What are we doing to our bodies? I'm 1,000 steps ahead. And so I realized my language of calling myself crazy is wrong.
Internalized. Yeah, that's you very much self-hating it.
Literally. And I've internalized the, like, okay, so it's gone to, they will judge me, Leo South Node. Aquarius being the outlier, the outsider, right? The person who doesn't belong. And now I've changed it to, I'm not even gonna say you're all crazy, do whatever you want, right? Like, no judgment, but I'm going to continue to be the lighthouse for awakening humanity to our next venture, right? To whether it's New Earth or whatever. I'm going to help wake them up and be like, this is how I operate.
I love it. And doing it in a very confident way, which says more than right. Yeah. Fifth house. That's a perfect example of that subtle shifting that you do.
So now I'm going to come up with some mantras and like statements around owning my uniqueness. Yeah. Like I'm quantum. I'm yeah, like purity is so key for me, right? And knowing that helps me change my language. I'm not crazy. And how dare I make myself feel crazy?
Right. And that just also validates, right? The, that collective kind of notion that like, yeah, those are the crazy people. Like here, okay. So great tie-in is like, I've been, I'm obsessed with oat milk. So like, I totally don't do regular milk now in terms of my coffee. And I've been like, definitely feeling the call to like shift to like totally dairy free for a long time or whatever. But I'm like, why do they charge more for alternative milk than dairy milk when dairy is so unsustainable, is so, is so not like a clean, healthy choice, right? So
I'm going to throw the opposite at you, because see, as a person who hasn't had dairy in like 14 years, it's been a long time. Like I've been diving into how oat milk's like not sustainable at all, and the chemicals in it and the seed oils in it and the amount of toxicity in all milks. So personally, I can't have dairy. My body just can't. So I use 100% coconut cream and water. And so it's been this huge thing of waking up to how I was unaware of what's actually in our other milks. And if you look deeper into the process of how oat milk's made, it's actually way less sustainable than dairy if we use dairy properly. If cows were grass-fed and
Local, right. Yes.
that world,
Yeah.
I will say the dairy system is insane and toxic and horrible, and that needs to stop.
Yeah. Right.
But okay, now we're going back to Aquarius. Now my North Node's turned on, where it's like, let's get back to local communities
I love
and
it.
healthy, happy cows, right?
Yeah, that would be the ideal. And like
Yeah.
for me, it's like, whether it's oat or whatever it is, it's more
Yeah.
about like, it's like the collective kind of consent to not question, I guess, or whatever,
Yeah.
to just go along and like to sort of punish the free thinkers, right? And not to say that drinking oat milk makes you a free thinker. It's not
No,
that.
but like going outside of the norm.
Going outside of the
Right?
norm.
Even
Why are
organic milk is a free thinker,
Yeah.
right? Like me
Right.
focusing, like my husband eats
Mhm.
only grass-fed, organic, unpasteurized, like the whole thing. So
That's more
he's,
expensive,
and
right?
it's more expensive, and he's
Right.
unusual for wanting, that stuff. Someone said the other day, we were talking to a friend, and someone looked at her and said, maybe your food's too organic. And she was like, what? Like, what is that a thing?
That even
Right. So we're like, that's the
Yeah.
outlier again, coming and being like, you're
Yeah.
weird because, and
Right.
that's how it's been for years with plant milks is like, and I'm going to say, if you made your own oat milk out of organic
That's
oats,
what
not sprayed with shit,
yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's amazing and that's sustainable. And again, organic oats grown in a
And
healthy,
you can very
sustainable way.
easily make your own oat milk,
Oh,
right?
so
So
easy.
yeah.
So
And you
easy.
can use the pulp to like do skincare. Like
Exactly.
it's just about going outside of the norm and
So we
like
literally we've gone outside the norm of, okay, now everybody's getting it at
yes,
the
it's
place, and it's
norm.
full of chemicals and full of shit, and it's sprayed with
Defeats the whole
glyphosate,
purpose.
the whole thing. But now we're going back to the outlier of now make it at home with your organic oats that were grown sustainably. And
Right.
yeah, right. So then that language is liberating me right now into like, I just get to be this unique
Yeah.
quantum being that like everything works out for me because I'm going against the norm.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. And
right?
that's what we want. We want people in their North Node energy. And I love it because again, I always like to think about how for one, how that saying, one man's trash is another man's
Yeah.
treasure. Not to put it like that, but like your North Node may be obviously totally different or in the opposite of somebody. And like, but for you, that's what the collective needs of you, right?
Yeah.
And I just love thinking about that. I think that is one of the most cool concepts that like if you're listening to this and like something we're talking about is like the total opposite for you, but think about how you being in that energy, because of everything you've ever gone through and because of your karmic cycle and journey, you being in this energy is what we need, right? So there is a bravery, there's an element of bravery and of sort of like breaking free.
Yeah.
Wherever that is for you, that's required. And I love telling people to try to find people who have your North Node sign like as their sun or as like one of their dominant energies, because you will learn so much from them and they will trigger you in a good way and challenge you just by their beingness. Like I really resonate with people who have a strong Taurus, and it used to trigger me like not good. Like I actually for a long time before I was aware of all this stuff, I actually like couldn't stand Taurus people. Like they just bothered me, not to put them all in a box, but like I did find that energy was like hard for me and I kind of just wanted to get away from it. And I was just like, I don't really like that person, because they were taking up space and they were doing all the things that like I am supposed, here to do. And I wasn't yet open to it. I was very resistant to it because my South was like, ooh, and so I like that, have you found that for you working with people or learning from people who have your North Node like is has served you or has been kind of something that you've done?
Yeah. So one of the big things learning from you was like, you have that dominant Aquarius energy. And so that for me was like, yep, it all makes sense. And I will note, like, looking back in the past and currently, I am very attracted to Aquarius Venus. Like every time I open up a chart of a man that I have fallen for, it is an Aquarius Venus and a Mars, Scorpio Mars every single time. So I realized like,
That's your type.
how triggering that was, because Aquarius is like, it's my type. Yeah. They're the commitment phobes, right? It's a reflection of me. They're the ones who you can't lock down, you can't figure out, their aloofness, their
Attachment.
yeah, the unattached energy they bring to the table. My Leo was always like clawing for their attention and they wouldn't give it, that I'd be like, when I get their attention, I'm going to be the special one, because the Aquarius is only going to give it to the special one, right? So I saw that in myself, and now I see how it's very healthy, in the sense of like, I do life differently, I do relationships differently, I do everything differently. And so finding my husband, who has his Aquarius Venus at 29 degrees, like he allows me to be in partnership in a different way. He is okay with, exploring polyamory and like weird things outside of the system. And that makes me feel free. And if I am not in that, I feel stagnant. So I found the high octave of how Aquarius people really light me up. But there was definitely like, they were the ones that wounded me in the past because my South Node was chasing them, not my North Node.
Huge. That is so powerful. Thank you, because looking at it from that perspective, it doesn't have to, it can just exploring the synastry with the nodes, and relationship, that's huge. But also we mentioned on the other episode, like transits as well, like seeing when a certain person comes into your life. If there's a North Node or a South Node transit connected, I bet that person has a very karmic or dharmic, which really are one and the same, purpose for you. And that is, or an event, an experience, whatever.
Totally.
I really love that. And again, I find that these connections to our nodes are really, really insightful and can help us relate in healthier ways. Like you said, what an amazing example from like your real life, like your marriage, how just choosing to relate and to, work through whatever you had to for yourself, and maybe together around like, okay, this energy can go either way, right? But if we can channel it to be supportive and healthy, like, wow, that can just change everything and make it work versus not. So no big deal. As I always
no big deal at all.
I'm just gonna change my podcast to no big deal.
No big deal with Daphna Romanoff. No, I love this so much. So many. Yeah, thank you for receiving it.
Yeah. And did you say that you also are living on your North Node line? Or
I am, yeah. Yeah. So I remember when you moved to yours, like I was working for you at that time. That was crazy. And I moved back. So my North Node line is pretty close to where I'm from. So it's like, I'm in Hamilton right now in Ontario. And my North Node line is basically Kingston, which is about 5 hours from me. So I'm pretty like close.
Yeah. I would call that close.
I would say I'm on it. Yeah. So when we moved back, like I felt this call to come back here earlier in 2022, big resistance, like big life Uranus year. But I'm back here, and like, it's interesting because I'm just sitting with why, but things tend to work out when I'm here. There always is doors opening, opportunities. Something is always like working in my advantage when I'm here, even though I don't love Ontario by any means. But something is always working in the universe with me when I'm here. And I have these huge revelations, and things happen when I'm on my North Node line. Are
there any challenges or?
Oh yeah. Like
what
I think the biggest challenge is I never want to be on it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the Aquarian.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like I belong here. I've never felt like I belonged here. My whole life, I've been trying to get away from this place.
Right. And that's interesting. So so how do you kind of like, what's the word? Wait, there's a word I love and I always forget it. And then when I remember it, I'm like, how do you not integrate, but whatever, it'll come to me, but like how do you like come to peace? Like where's that middle ground for you around like everything's working out for me, but I don't feel like I belong. And like we were saying before, part of being Aquarian is not feeling like, well, it
Yes.
is when you belong with your like
Your
unique
community.
soul
Yeah.
family. Um, but like, where is that for you right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've been working on since I've been here is yes, I have this gut instinct that I'm being guided. And at the
Mhm.
same time, I have to sit with like the being present and not 12th house energy, escaping out of it, or constantly looking to run away or planning to run away or planning like the next move, which is really hard for me because I'm already like, we could go to Alberta, we could go here, we could go here. But sitting with being present where I am. What do I appreciate being here? What am I finding here? What do I love about this place? Can I find places that make me feel full here? Can I explore it more here and find like, for me, like hiking is always something that grounds me and brings me back to myself. So, okay, I'm in like this really big city that's not a lot of green space. How can I go and, seek that out more? And really finding things that make me feel whole within a place that doesn't is kind of what I work with.
It's actually interesting. It was fascinating and very beautiful to see that reflection because I feel the same. I Sedona, I have this, I do say a love-hate relationship with it, where I haven't felt that as much in other places I've lived. And it's just really cool to think about like, we're not here saying you should move to your North Node. I actually don't practice astrology in that way. I don't try to outsmart the cosmos by, it's more like I've ended up here and I'm on my North Node line. And it's like, well, what is this purpose? Right. So I think, you can move to your North Node line and see what that's about, but it's like, it's more like life just kind of led me here. Maybe you feel that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like living on it, it's not like, oh, wow, like that I'm like necessarily feeling okay, I found my, my utopia. It's challenging in many ways. And at the same time, it is very guided, like you were saying. So I really feel a very similar experience, which is really cool. I wonder if other people, if you're living on your North Node or have, let
Mhm.
us know. But to me, it's like there's a quality to the life here for me that is, again, also feels like I can see the hand of fate a little bit more. I can feel that there's like synchronistic things and like it feels like, yes, there's something here. There's a lot of growth here. And at the same time, I don't know if this is my, permanent place. I don't know if, this is it for me, right? But that's okay. Like I don't, that this is just where I'm at right now. And I do feel that there's a lot of growth that is very much linked to being more in my North Node. Like it's just about same hiking, connecting to the earth. I know very clearly that I came here to write my book, which now I'm like, oh, of course,
Ditto.
Mercury. I'm on my
Ditto.
Mercury line too,
Yeah.
and I haven't done that yet, but like I know that it's going to be, great. And I know a lot of the stuff I'm working through is preparing me to just be in the space for writing and for being, having the space to write, because like for so long I was like just doing my work and everything and it, just not being able to just write.
Yeah.
But also like body, like I'm so much more connected to my body here than I ever have been, and Sedona just has allowed me that, and it's just really, really interesting. So I love that we're both in that. I think that's
Me too.
fascinating.
I think it's amazing.
Really, really interesting. So what would you say, like, for those listening and like maybe kind of exploring, like, there's like, what do you feel is like the most like profound, or like what's the, like, let's say there's somebody out there who really is resonating and is like not sure or hasn't really explored their nodes just as much yet. What is the difference, right? Like life with this awareness of the North Node versus not, right? It's not that it just heals everything and fixes everything and you're like all, you know, right, because we're still growing all the time. But how does life feel different when you are leaning into it versus not?
Yeah, oh my goodness, yeah. When I started leaning into this energy and, soothing and like exalting my south node, it was like we mentioned in the sister episode, is a lot less pain. I stopped operating from like very, very low octaves and pain and suffering and seeking things that aren't mine, seeking things that didn't belong to me, and leaning into like how aligned can it get? Like for you, like how good can it get? It's like how aligned can I feel? How much surrender can I lean into? And a big thing I've been working with for the last, like all of 2022 for my North Node is being detached, and not in an unhealthy way, but my language lately is like becoming the observer, the detached observer. And so when I'm in that state, the biggest thing that I have developed over the last probably over 10 years is peace. I guess it would be 9 years, but yeah, peace. Peace is my thing. Like when I'm the detached observer, so when I'm in my Aquarius North Node in the 5th house, it's like a healthy emotional detachment. When I'm in that, my life is peaceful no matter how much chaos comes in. I just had like the hardest year of my life. It was just a ride, but because I stayed and I just kept leaning into my North Node and I kept leaning into those words, the detached, healthy observer, I was able to have the most peaceful year of my life in the hardest year of my life. And so witnessing that when I got through it, of just being like, yeah, it was super hard. I could have completely spiraled out. I could have completely like broken down, but I didn't, because I just kept observing and watching and going, interesting, interesting, interesting. When I operate from that, I have peace.
Right.
That's my like guiding force, is like,
Sure.
what is that for you, right? Based on like whoever's listening's North Node, like your language is going to be different. It might not be the detached observer like
Right.
me, right? But
Maybe
there's
not.
something,
Right.
yeah, literally, like you could be actually like needing to dive into your emotional intelligence or whatever it is. What is that language that guides you to peace and away from like pain?
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. Thank you.
Yeah. And have you
Sharing.
found like a similar process?
Yeah, totally. As you were speaking, I was like, so many things were connecting. Like, for me, moving here, life has just taken such a different like quality for me around like allowing myself, like I've been in like photo shoots, like that's never, and it's just like this is just what's coming up. Like, oh, do you want to be in a photo shoot for this hotel? I'm doing another one for
Nice.
these socks. And like it just comes, like I'm not seeking that at all. I mentioned before, like privately, around Vortifest, which is like the music festival I've been part of, where like I find myself running a music festival, and like,
Yeah.
and that is so Taurus, like the music and the pleasure, like, coordinating like the food and the clothes, like stuff that like I just didn't ever try to get involved with, but like it's fun and it's like different and it flows, and it's like it's such a different experience to let things come, which is also really healing for my Venus and Aries, which, you're going to find many connections in the chart of all these. It's like, it's a whole picture. But totally just, the difference for me feels like life in flow, and like not having to reach so hard or push or force, which again weirdly can feel hard because we are so used to that. So letting go of the addiction to like feeling like we have to, fight against life and all that stuff, and that life should feel so hard. Once you get past that, right? And you just start to be more of a receiver and more of a co-creator, it's a totally different experience because there's way less suffering. That whole illusion of control thing, that whole me by myself, right? It's like I just feel more supported. I feel more connected. I feel like I don't have to have all the answers, but it does feel weird, because it's a vulnerable place to let go of that conditioning of like, okay, I have to do this all by myself and stuff. So I think it's really, really cool. And, it's very rewarding. Like I was saying, there's this universal kind of support that you can tap into. And life becomes kind of like this ride, right? Like this safe, it just feels more like safe to me in a lot of ways. And yeah, that would be the difference for me. And especially in like business and stuff like that, and like work and parenting, right? Like there's just so many pieces that fall away that like you think were so necessary and vital, and like just like heaviness, and then you're like, okay, like I really do get to just like live a life that is fun or whatever, interesting or adventurous, whatever it may be for you. And you get into this kind of growth space where you surprise yourself.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And like, what a beautiful invitation into working with this placement. Like if anyone listening is like, I'm not interested at this point, I'm like,
yeah, I don't know what.
You're crazy.
Yeah,
because there is, that growth space that like, it gets to be easy. It gets to be simple. It gets to be beautiful. But we're gonna have to let go of some shit to get there. Let go of some programming, some societal expectations, some personal expectations.
Absolutely. And I think the most exciting thing for me, and I bet for you and the other Aquarian beings, is like just that knowingness that like I'm doing what I can to really like say yes to my bigger role, and to the like these little acts of rebellion, right? Of even just like you said, like the parts of ourself that we think we are, whatever, just that act ripples out and allows for more creativity and more freedom and like liberation. I like to call it free radicals. We're like these little free radicals bouncing around, challenging ourselves, challenging our conditioning, our limitation, our limiting beliefs, our expectations. And by doing that, that's an energy that then hopefully it does create greater change. So that's to me like what what it's really about. But yeah, so anything else that we want to say on the
No,
note?
I feel like we said it all. Like this has been
a lot.
It's so good and juicy.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to hear, if you're listening, what resonates. Share your stories. Definitely check out, like I said, the sister episode. I will drop everything that's necessary, and complimentary into the show notes. Vika and I are gonna go now rest and sleep and be in our Leo energy.
She's not wrong. That's the end of the today.
I'm gonna go hide for like a week now.
Yeah, we're done. We used our socials
like energizing. This was like really, really good for me.
It was so good. Thank you for having me.
Hey, okay. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I will catch you at the next episode, and have an amazing rest of your day.
So guys, we have a really exciting announcement / surprise that we have been, gestating and I guess sitting on an egg for a while now. That Daphna and I are going to be offering a beautiful program in Pisces season, where you'll get the opportunity to work with us one-on-one in a very intimate and juicy container. Daphna, do you want to share more about it?
Yes. Yeah. So like if you were sitting there listening to these episodes and feeling like that inner just knowing, right? That like it's time for you to really understand your South Node more and make peace with it and also lean deeper into your North Node, then this is for you. That's literally who it's for. And it's going to be so fun because we're sharing, right? So Vika's going to take the lead with South Node, and I'm going to take the lead on the North Node. And yet we'll both be holding the space and sharing and, facilitating this amazing transformation and awakening for your specific code. So we're purposefully going to keep it small and intimate for that reason. And like Vika said, it's going to be this Pisces season. So what we did was we went ahead and created a little wait list so that you can sign up and let us know that you're interested and that this is something that is speaking to you so that you'll be the first to get the details. We have special pricing. We want to make it as accessible as possible. So go ahead and drop your name and email in there if this is something that you would love to learn more about and take part in with us.
Yeah, and this is going to be such a juicy discovery into what I think you can see at this point for both of us has been a life-changing discovery in our astrology. And I think we can both confidently say one of the most impactful shifts either of us have ever made in aligning ourselves to our true essence.
Totally. And even just since recording the other day, like I was really reflecting and I was like, wow, like what would I do without this? And I'm so grateful to have it because like we were saying, there's so many moments in life where you just don't know, and the nodes are really there to help us always come back on track and know that we're moving forward in the direction that we're meant to. So
Yeah,
I
100%.
can't wait. I can't wait to see who comes in and we are, I don't know if you want to mention that we are specifically doing Canadian.
Yes, it will be in Canadian dollars.
We want to keep it real and we want to make sure that, it's there and available to you because we so deeply believe in this work and can't wait to like make this magic together and explore past, present, future. Do we want to say the name?
We can say the name, absolutely.
So it's called The Gift. And that came through strong because it's like you are a gift, right? So we're each a gift to the world. And I always like to share that little story around how I was dancing around the fire one summer at the Women's Herbal Conference, and that message just came through so clear. And I knew it was like from the goddess. And she was like, your gifts are not yours to hide from the world. And that's what this is about. I feel like you are the gift, past, present, future, the present, right? We want to bring it all into the now and give you those tools to, again, like really hold yourself and support yourself in your evolution together. Like what could be more fun?
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to do
I love
it.
this. It's going to be really juicy. It's going to be a 6-week container with us. Like we said, very intimate, not a one-to-one, but you will get lots of that intimate, almost one-to-one feeling in the process because we will be very focused on your particular codes and how the evolution of your soul is happening here on earth, and really, really realigning you guys into your true north, or that shining star, as I call it, and tapping into your sacred magic through the mastery and, that future point. So we're going to have a few payment plans available. Like we said, we're making it in Canadian dollars because we understand, especially here in Canada, how hard it is. That US currency exchange is absolutely astronomical. So for my Canadians out there, I promise this is not going to be in US dollars. For my US people out there, a little bonus for you because that's a little bit of a a shift, but we're going to make this super accessible for you guys to join in and be able to do this work with us in the capacity that you need at this moment. So if you want to get in and, get on that wait list, we are, like I said, taking a limited amount of people because we do not want to overfill this container. We want to overfill it with not too many people. So if you want to get on that wait list, it's going to be in the show notes, whether you're on the podcast or you're watching on YouTube. So you can drop your name in there, and it's going to be first come, first serve, early bird pricing, all that good stuff. So Daphna, is there anything I missed in there?
No, you nailed it. Got
Okay.
it. I'm so excited to just be leading with you and really just in that circle, right? Like it's just about holding the space to allow for each sister who enters in with us to, find their own interpretation, right, of their North Node and giving, whatever we can to facilitate that. But each one will have their own channeled experience, and I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Ditto. It's going to be beautiful. So thank you, my loves, and we will see you inside the gift.
Yes.